You're lying on the couch, your phone won't stop scrolling, your laptop is open on the table, right next to a to-do list you haven't touched all day. The clock keeps moving, and in your head, there's just one thought on repeat. I need to start. But then, 30 minutes pass, then an hour, then two, and you still haven't done anything. Not because you didn't want to, not because you don't care, but because somehow you simply couldn't start. And that's when the guilt creeps in. I'm so lazy. Other people can do this, why can't I? What is actually wrong with me? Does this sound familiar? The more you blame yourself, the harder it becomes to actually do anything. It's a loop. Guilt drains the little energy you had left, and with less energy, starting feels even more impossible. And if that's the cycle you've been stuck in, there's something you need to hear right now. You're probably not lazy. What's more likely happening is that your brain is so overloaded it has quietly slipped into survival mode. Today, we're going to look at why that happens, why beating yourself up about it only makes things worse, and most importantly, how to get your brain working again. Let me tell you about one particular morning. I opened my laptop at 9 a.m. My to-do list wasn't even that long, maybe 4 or 5 items. But I sat there, staring at the screen, for almost an hour, not typing a single word. Then I opened YouTube, then Instagram, then the news. By noon, I hadn't done a single thing on that list. I told myself I was just being lazy. The same old story. Turns out, that wasn't it at all. Here's the thing worth understanding. Laziness and overwhelm can look exactly the same from the outside. Someone sitting still, not working, scrolling their phone. It's the same picture. But underneath that picture, they are two completely different experiences. A person who is genuinely lazy doesn't really care. There's no real pressure weighing on them. No guilt about not doing anything. They're just fine with it. And that's a very different inner world. An overwhelmed person is the exact opposite. They care, a lot. They want to get everything done. They worry about it all day long, replaying the list in their head. They criticize themselves over and over. And by the time they even attempt to start, they're already emotionally exhausted. Here's the line worth remembering, maybe even writing down somewhere. A lazy person doesn't suffer from doing nothing. An overwhelmed person suffers precisely because they want to do so much. That single difference changes everything about how you should be treating yourself. So what's actually happening inside your brain when this hits? Let's keep this simple. No lecture, no jargon, just the basics of what's going on under the hood. Your brain does not like being overloaded. When there are too many deadlines, too many expectations, too many decisions, too much pressure stacked on top of each other all at once, your brain reads that entire pile as a threat, almost the same way it would read physical danger. Most people already know about two classic responses to threat: fight or flight. But there's a third response that gets talked about far less, and it's the one that explains almost everything about this feeling: freeze. Your brain decides that standing completely still is the safest option available. That's why you end up staring blankly at your screen, why you pick up your phone without even meaning to, why you genuinely cannot decide where to even begin. It's not a lack of willpower, and it was never about discipline. It's your nervous system trying, in its own clumsy way, to protect you from a feeling that's simply too much to process all at once. There's actually a term behavioral scientists use for this buildup: allostatic load. Basically, the cumulative wear and tear of carrying too much stress for too long without enough recovery in between. Your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's just running on a battery that never gets to recharge. Have you ever noticed some of these patterns showing up in your own life? Let's go through a few concrete signs that you might be overwhelmed, not lazy. First, you put off things that would only take a few minutes. A 2-minute email, a 5-minute phone call, paying a bill that takes 30 seconds online. You avoid all of it for an entire day, even though none of it is actually hard. Second, there's something psychologists sometimes call revenge bedtime procrastination. You stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning, not because you can't sleep, but because that late-night stretch is the only slice of the day when you feel like you actually own your own time. Third, brain fog. You read the same paragraph 3 times and still don't absorb a word of it. You forget what you were just about to do, mid-step. You stare at the screen and your mind feels completely, almost eerily, blank. If you just nodded along to most of what I described, don't try to memorize everything at once. And here's the solution for you. Step 1 is something simple, called a brain dump. Grab a piece of paper, any paper. Write down everything floating around in your head, every task, every worry, every half-formed thought. Don't organize it. Don't sort it by importance. Don't judge any of it while you write. The only goal here is to move that weight out of your working memory and onto the page. Cognitively, this works because your working memory has a very limited capacity, roughly a handful of items at once. Every unfinished task sitting in your head, psychologists call this an open loop, quietly uses up a slice of that capacity even while you're doing something else entirely. Writing it down closes the loop, at least temporarily, and frees up space to actually think. Step 2. I like to call the power of 1. Stop looking at a list of 20 things all at once. That's what triggers the freeze response in the first place. Just pick one, not necessarily the biggest or most important one. Pick whatever's easiest to start, or whatever matters most to you right now in this exact moment. Finishing one small thing gives your brain an actual hit of dopamine tied to progress, and that little rush of progress is very often what creates the motivation to keep going, rather than motivation showing up first and action following after. Motivation, in most cases, follows action, not the other way around. Step 3. Lower the bar, on purpose. Stop trying to do things perfectly. Just do enough to start. Can't do a full hour at the gym? Walk for 10 minutes instead. Can't clean the entire room? Just clear off your desk. Can't write 10 pages? Write one single paragraph. An imperfect version of something you actually finish will always beat a perfect plan that you never begin. Perfectionism, ironically, is often just fear wearing a very respectable disguise. Step 4. Actual rest, not the imitation version. Scrolling your phone while feeling guilty about it isn't rest at all. That's just trading one kind of stress for another kind of stress, and your nervous system doesn't get the break it actually needs. Real rest looks more like putting the phone down completely. Closing your eyes for a few minutes. Taking a few genuinely slow, deep breaths. Going for a short walk outside. Drinking a glass of water. Giving your nervous system an actual chance to settle back down. When was the last time you actually did that, without a screen in your hand at the same time? Here's the perspective I really want you to walk away with today. You don't need fixing. You are not broken. You're simply trying to run an exhausted brain inside a world that keeps demanding more and more from it. Every single hour of every single day. Notifications, emails, social media feeds designed to be hard to put down. Deadlines stacked one after another. Decisions, dozens of them, all day long. From what to eat to what to reply to whom. Sometimes slowing down isn't a failure. Sometimes it's exactly what your brain needs in order to keep going at all. The same way a car needs to occasionally coast instead of running at full throttle every single mile. What you need right now isn't more pressure piled on top, it's more understanding, directed at yourself, for once. So here's what I genuinely ask of you. Don't try to overhaul your entire life right after watching this video. That almost never works, and it usually just adds one more source of pressure. Just do one single thing. Pick the task you've been avoiding the longest, the one that's been quietly sitting at the back of your mind for days, maybe weeks. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Work on it for exactly 5 minutes. That's the entire assignment. You might be surprised to find that starting is so much harder than continuing ever turns out to be. Once you're actually moving, momentum tends to carry the rest. If you feel like it, drop a comment down below and tell me, what's the one thing you've been putting off the longest? Sometimes just writing it out in words is the very first step toward getting your sense of control back.